Thank you so much for the introduction, David. The shiur is dedicated for the full and speedy recovery of Yocheved Basara, who is with us tonight. And I must say that for me it's a special night. It's my mother's 42nd Yortzeit tonight. I am broadcasting right now from New Jersey. My mother is buried in Eretz Yisroel, and her Azkara in the cemetery, believe it or not, is beginning in 30 minutes in Bet HaKvarot in Petach Tikva in the cemetery. So everything is connected. I feel very, very privileged to have the zchus and the merit speaking here tonight on this platform. Also like to mention Dr. David Rothner of the Cleveland Clinic Foundation, a distinguished neurologist who is a Ben Torah, whom for some chasadim that he has done in the past week, I'd like to mention his name here, and he has a great chilik in the mitzvah, Hatzalas Nefashos of many. We've been involved, and I don't know if Dr. Rothner is with us or is right now in the hospital, but I would like to say thank you to him and on this special moment. I would like to speak tonight about a topic which I think will be all connected and related. You know, where I am, it's still Chavtes Sivan. I believe in London with the late Shkias Achamo. We are also at Chavtes Sivan. The 29th day of Sivan in Jewish history is the date per the Gemara in Tainis Daf Chavtes, the date that Moshe Rabbeinu sent the Meraglim, the 12 spies, for her shlichus to go to Eretz Yisroel. This happens on Chavtes Benisan. They go for a journey 40 days long, which comes back exactly on Leil Tisha B'Av, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "Atem b'chisem b'chiyah shel chinam, ani eg mechem leb'chiyah shel deiros." You really cried in vain, and therefore, at the very same night of their return from the journey, will be many, many tragedies in Klal Yisrael. Beis HaMikdash, the first temple and the second temple, were destructed on the first day. But the origination of this journey commenced today, right now. Right now, Chavtes B'Sivan is when they go out for their journey. Anybody who read the Parsha this past week knows that amongst the 12 Meraglim, the 12 spies, there were 10 bad ones and only 2 good ones. The 2 good ones were Yehoshua ben Nun, who was elected thereafter after Moshe Rabbeinu. By the way, this all happens in the second years of Klal Yisrael exiting from Egypt. They go out of Egypt a 48 year of Brias Ha'olam. That's how we count from the time that the world was created. And this happens on the second year after they build the Mishkan in Echod Ben Nisan of the second year. And thereafter, the whole story of Miriam, Chatzeros, happens in Chav Beis even a week ago. And today, exactly today, the Meraglim go out for the journey. So we all know the story of the Meraglim. We're not going to get, I'd like to focus on a few points which maybe we should all have some kind of a learning curve for what happened here, and how does that have an implication on the partition of the land of Israel as the topic and the subject of today's shiur. You know, when the Meraglim come back and they come and say, Dibas Ha'oretz, they say Lashon Hara, very evil about what's happening in Eretz Yisroel, and they're really trying to scare Yotzei Mitzrayim a year after their journey into their troubles. They're trying to scare them and to basically tell them, do not go there, it's not a place for you. And we find a very, very interesting observation. When I look at Kalev ben Yefune, who was a representative of the tribe of Yehuda, and Yehoshua ben Nun, who is an Enokel and a representative of the tribe of Ephraim, who is a son of Yosef, they both have different approaches as to how to respond to the Meraglim's Lashon Hara. And let me read from the pasuk. Vayahas kolev esa'om. Kolev, the word yahas means he quieted them. Shh. Vayomer oloina ale v'yarashnu oiso ki yochol nuchalo. We will be able to conquer Eretz Yisroel. Okay. Thereafter, I look a few psukim later. It says v'Yeshua binun v'kolev ben Yefuna minatorim esa'oretz koru bigdeim. They both sit on the floor and they tear the clothes as sign of Avelis for this terrible, terrible chet of the Meraglim. What did Kolev do? Kolev vayas, Kolev says Rashi, hishtik etz kulom. You know, today in the internet generation, all you have to do is press a button, mute all. There was another pre-technology era way to mute the entire crowd. Says Rashi, and I quote, Lishmoya masheyedaber b'Moshe. He said, shh, I got news for you. Be quiet. And everybody's quiet. Tzavach ve'omar, he screamed. And he said, V'chizu bilvad osalonu ben Amram. Is this the only thing Ben Amram, Moshe is called here as the son of Amram? Hashoimea hoyosov or shebala sapra bignusoi. Mitoich shehoyo belibam al Moshe bishvil divra meraglim. Shoskukulam. They thought he's saying he's coming with another juicy piece of Lashon Hora by Moshe Rabbeinu, because they are right now all angry. Everybody he's being, as we call in Spanish, ungerates from the Lashon Hora that the Meraglim brought upon. And they said, you know, if that's the case, we are going to listen to what he has to say. And when everybody's muted, he throws in, Ve'omar alei kora lonu es hayom, ve'hoirid lonu es amon, ve'hegiz lonu es aslav. This is the only thing Moshe did to us. He got everybody to be muted. He says, this is the man that split the ocean for us. This is the man that brought upon the bread and the meat, the man and the slav, min hashamayim. So, Kolev is trying to diffuse the Lashon Hora of the Meraglim by saying, who are you going to fight against? Moshe. Do you know what Moshe did for us? Moshe. And Yehoshua, who is chosen by Moshe to be the next leader, and indeed, after 40 years in the desert, he's the one that is leading him to the promised land. He's just sitting there quiet. Don't find a word that Yehoshua, anything on top, upon saying to the Meraglim something. You, Yeshua bin Nun, should have stood up there. You, Rabbi, you're the Talmud Muvak. He's your distinguished Rabbi. You should go up there and say, what are you guys talking about? And this Ramban feels this some kind of a sensation here of not understandable scenario where two Meraglim who are Oivdei Hashem, who are the genuine Meraglim, who came back with a positive report, the only one that has to say something for the protocol is Kolev, speaking about how important, how distinguished is Moshe, and Yeshua sits there in his corner, rips his clothes, and stays quiet. So today, maybe we'll shed some light on it, and we will be able to understand the approaches and thereafter. Let me go back. I'd like to go back 432 years prior to the story of the Meraglim. Avraham Avinu was born 1948 for Bria So'ilam when he was 70 years of age. We have the Bris Bein HaBetarim, the famous covenant, the same famous pact that Avraham Avinu has with the Kodesh Baruch. And in that pact, Avraham Avinu is being promised and guaranteed the promised land. And let me read the psukim in Parshas Lech Lecha, the three psukim which describes the fate of the future of Bnei Yisrael in the coming days once they enter upon the land of Israel. Kadosh Baruch Hu makes a bris, a pact, a covenant with Avram. And he's specifying the northern and the southern borders of the land of Israel. And here he counts, Esakeni v'esaknizi v'eshakadmoini, 3, Esachiti v'esaprizi v'esarefoim, 6, Another 4, collectively 10. Says Rashi, Eser umois yeshkan, v'loi nosan lohem elo shiva goy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu parted the land. He only gave them 7. We know that Eretz Yisroel, anybody who was familiar with the topics of the land of Israel, where they captured, they know that Eretz Yisroel is defined as Eretz Shiva Amamin, the land of 7 nations. The 7 nations that live, we say every day in Dam, which 3 are not included in the package? Says Rashi, Aval hashloisha Edom umoya ve'amoin vehem kini knize ve'kadmoini asidim liyos Yerusha la'osu chenemar Edom umoya v'mishlach yodom uvnei amoin mishma'atom. There are 3 lands, 3 of those nations which you're not going to conquer when you come into Eretz Yisroel. Who are they? Edom umoya ve'amoin, which is called in the pasuk kini knize ve'kadmoini. Just to give you a geographical background, we know that on the eastern side of Israel, starting up in Yam Kinneret, in the Kinneret Sea, going down to the Dead Sea, there's a river called the Jordan River. The Eretz Shiva Amamin is basically the land west of the Jordan River, all the way up to the Mediterranean. From the north, which is Nehar Pros, we have to understand, we're not going through the borders right now, till Nachal Mitzrayim, which is either the Nile or Wadi El Arish. Not getting into there, but for our practical purposes, these 7 nations, Eretz HaKnani, what we call, is the 7 nations we dwell on the western side of the Jordan River. The 3 other nations, which is called Ever Hayarden, which means the eastern part of the Jordan River, which is Ammon in the north, Moav in the middle, and Edom in the south, which were dwelled by Kini, Knizi, and Kadmoini, those lands were not given to Klal Yisrael at the time. That's what Rashi says. They are going to be given, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised to Avraham in Bein HaBetarim, the covenant, that they're going to go get 10 Amamim. They're going to be given in the future, but only in the future. For the time being, right now, they're not going to be given. They're going to be given to Ammon and Moav and Edom. Says Rashi, in Parshas Dvorim, it says, when you go into the beginning of Sefer Dvorim, it says, when you're going to come by, you're going to pass by Edom. Edom is Esav. He says, don't start up with Esav, because Klal Yisrael is coming and around. They don't go through Eretz Plishtim straight north. They go 40 years in Jersey in the Midbar, and then they're going to come in from Ever Yarden. They're going to head east, and they're going to go up north. But on the side, they're going to pass by the first neighboring state, will be Esav, who took Eretz Edom, which is one of the 3, Kini, Knize, and Kadmoini. Says Rashi, Yerusha le'Esav nasati esar, so you do not start up with Esav. Says Rashi, Me'avrom eser amim nosati loi, shiva lochem, v'kini, Knize, v'kadmoini, hamoin, u'moa, v'seir, achas nosati le'Esav, v'shtayim lebnei Lloyd. Why? Avraham comes into Eretz Yisroel. By the way, it's 5 years after Bein HaBetarim, when Avraham is 75 years of age. And let's not now discuss how the journeys went. He came in, he went back to Chutz La'aretz, to Haran, and he came back again. But when Avraham comes, he takes with him his nephew Lloyd, and they come to passport control. And he decided, when they come in to Mitzrayim afterwards, they go down to Mitzrayim because he's hungry in Eretz Yisroel. Guys are asking, who is that? He says, that's my sister. He didn't want it. It's his wife. They're going to take it. She was a beautiful woman. And Lloyd is standing on the same line in passport control, and he could spill the beans. What are you talking about, Uncle Avraham? This is your wife. This is my aunt. He didn't say anything. For keeping quiet, he's getting those 2 northern 2, Esav, Moav, and Ammon. Those are 2 children of Lloyd from his birth of his daughter, his children, his grandchildren. And those Ammon and Moav, which are Bnei Lloyd, are receiving in exchange or in a sachar, as a reciprocation and as a note of appreciation of being quiet, they are receiving those 2 lands, Ammon and Moav. So the same story goes by. You go by Esav, don't start up with him. It's not for you, it's for Esav. You come into Ammon, don't start up. You come into Moav, don't start up. It's all pre-designated, given to those 3 nations, and therefore don't start up with them. That's what it says in Sefer Dvarim. So Pashtas, superficially as we look, and that's how Rashi, the basic fundamental people who are commentators are Rashi understand, that right up front, as we call in Latin, ab initio, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises the 10 lands, he says from the start, 7 to you Jews on the western side of the Jordan River, and 3 I'm giving to my other. Don't forget, Esav is a brother to Yaakov, Lloyd is a nephew of Avraham Avinu. Those lands are designated as of the start to be given to those 3 nations. So we have, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, you know what, I'm giving you right now 3, and a post-dated check, be'achari sayomim, in the future to come, then you're going to be noichel those 3, but for the time being, in this world, until achari sayomim, I'm giving it over to Ammon and Moav and Edom. If I look at the Madrish, it's not so simple. If I look at the Madrish Rabbah, the Madrish says, Rab Chelboi b'shem Rabbi Yochanan Omar, Kach ola b'daita shel mokim lahamchi lohem eretz asara amim, ve'esakini, ve'esaknizi, ve'esakadmoini. The truth of the matter, in the beginning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to gift Bnei Yisrael also the eastern Ever Yarden, Kini, Knize, Kamon. It was supposed to be there. It doesn't say why, but they didn't have the merit. Something must have happened in between that they lost it. Because they didn't have the merit, they have something happening in between, some kind of a short, if it doesn't say in the Madrish, but in a minute we'll see. And as a result, he took it away from them. Aval Edom v'moyam ve'amel l'nosam b'olam hazeh, aval imoysa Mashiach yachzeru liYisrael k'dei l'kayim ha'amor shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As we see in the Madrish, it's not that pre-division, pre-partition, we gave Ammon and Moav and Edom to the east side of the Jordan River, to these 3 nations, to Ammon and Moav and Esav. But the truth of the matter is, in Brit Bein HaBetarim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu bestowed upon the Klal Yisrael the entire 10 nations. Something must have happened in the middle, and therefore took it away from them, gave it as a pikodin, as the Madrish says later, as a deposit for this world, and B'mois HaMashiach will be returned back to Klal Yisrael. You know, I found a phenomenal Vilna Goyen. The Goyen is a Pirush Tanakh called Aderes Eliyahu. Not too many people are acquainted with this Pirush. But if you look at Aderes Eliyahu and Divrei Hayomim, and let me quote the beautiful words of the Goyen. Ubnei Esav lokchu knizi mibnei Knaan, ve'amon u'moyav lokchu kini ve'kadmoini. He says, Knizi went to Esav. Kini and Kadmoini went to Ammon. Ubedvorim, Perik Aleph Pasuk Zayin, Pnus ulochem ubo ara moyav el kol shchein of Oma besifri, ze Ammon u'moyav ve'edom. Says the Goyen, if you open up, each and every one participants here in the shiur reads every year, at least once a year, Parshas Dvarim. And when you open up right after Matan Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu tells them, Pnu Sulochem, please make a turn and go start your journey. El Hara Emoyer Vel Kol Shchenov. What is Hara Emoyri? Rashi says Amoyin Umoya Ve'edom, which means they have an explicit order to go and conquer and capture Amun Umoya Ve'edom. Rashi says it's a Sifri. What's happening here? Says the Goyen Ukshechatu Yisrael b'meraglim nema lohem be'esav ve'amun u'moyav ki lo yeten lochem lochem b'vayeschano ne'ema rak eretz shiva amomim. Says the Goyen, you know what the turning point is? You know when the coin dropped? You know when God changed his mind and saying these 3 nations which I wanted to give you ab initio was included in the package by Avraham Avinu, Brit Bein HaBetarim, it went away and it's given now to Ammon and Moav and Edom? It happened because of Hatamar Raglim. So on Hatamar Raglim, today, Chavta Sivan, was the commencement of their journey, and they came to such an evil of Hatamar Raglim, they lost those 3 nations. They lost the eastern side of the eastern border of the Jordan River. They lost the entire Ammon and Moav and Edom, and it was given then, only then, to this. Says the Goyen, that's why in the beginning, when they first came after Matan Torah, which happened in the first year, as soon as they came out of Mitzrayim, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, you know what? You got to go conquer Ammon and Moab. And something happened. What happened? What happened is Chet HaMeraglim. And Chet HaMeraglim is the reason for them to lose it and to go ahead and give it to Ammon and Moab and Edom. What's the connection? Okay, they sinned. If I look in the history of Klal Yisrael, there are many sins Klal Yisrael did. Chet HaEgel, if I were to choose a Chet, which happened prior to Chet HaMeraglim, Chet HaEgel happened on Shivos HaBetarim on the first year, basically 11 months prior to the story of the Chet HaMeraglim. The biggest Chet, I would say, is Chet HaMeraglim. The biggest Chet of Klal Yisrael going to be Avodah Zarah after they see Matan Torah and they go ahead and being working, worshipping Elohim Acherim, Avodah Zarah. No, they still didn't lose that part. You know when they lose it? A year later, 11 months later, when they go into Chet HaMeraglim, that causes them to lose this portion of Ammon, Moab, and Edom, which is be given to them then until future reference. What's happening here? Why is Lloyd receiving Ammon and Moab? Why are they giving him the gift? Okay, Klal Yisrael lost Chet HaMeraglim. Let's put it a second on the back burner. Why is Lloyd getting it? So Rashi says, because he was quiet. They said about Ishtay Achaisai, he has his uncle and auntie, as you people say in England. His auntie, which was described as the sister of Avraham, was in ipso facto was his wife. And he was quiet. He could have opened his mouth and said, what are you talking about? Says Rashi, Bischar sheholach lamitzrayim v'shosak al mashorim ha'ishta achoisa asoi kebnoi. Now you're becoming a son of Avraham Avinu, and you're going to get those two lands, Ammon and Moab. Why is Esav receiving the Eretz Edom? What is so special, so unique about Esav Harasha that he receives Eretz Edom? So let me quote to you the Targum Yonasan. It says, Ki le'esav nosati nachalo es ar seir, says Targum Yonasan, Arum Yerusha le'esav yagiva, the Torah de Gav, mitul ikro de ovad lehavui. It's not only a Targum Yonasan, it's a Balaturim, it's a Chizkuni, it's mentioned there on Ban. Esav was very unique and special in the mitzvah of Kibud Av, of honoring his father. Actually, in essence, Chazal say that the Kibud Av of Esav to his father was greater than the Kibud Av, the respect and the honor he paid to his father than Yaakov did to Yitzchak. Esav's Kibud Av is greater. And because his Kibud Av is so great, therefore, he is standing under the basket to take the southern state of Edom, of Knizi, as the Goyen says, to capture it for Klal Yisrael, to hold on the deposit to loss and love it. Why is that? So let me tell you something. What was Chet HaEgel? What was Chet HaMeraglim? If I'm looking at the Ramban in the beginning of Parashat Shlach, what we just read this past week, the Ramban says the Meraglim botched it up twice. They made two separate scenes. In their Dibas Ha'oretz, they do separate things. Number one, they say Dibas Ha'oretz, they say Lashon Hara. It's very evil. You can't say Lashon Hara. And they speak Lashon Hara about Eretz Yisroel. So this is Chet number one, everybody knows. Says the Ramban, Ve'oid, quote unquote, Shekofru betoivosoi shel mokoim, la'achar she'isziu mimitzrayim ve'osa lehem anisim. You know what? You have tightness against Eretz Yisroel. You have very evil Lashon Hara, as we call it in Yiddish, Zaftik Lashon Hara, against Eretz Yisroel. All in Betzuis, Bnei Anok, we saw giants. All the cities are gated, and you're never going to be able to conquer. Be quiet. You know what? You owe him one. He took you out of slavery, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He gave you all the nisim. You have to have some token of appreciation. You need to have what we call hakarat tov. You need to have a sort of reciprocation of paying back and saying thank you. So by saying the Dibas Ha'oretz, there is a double header here. A, you speak in Lashon Hara. B, you're showing the lack of hakoras hatoiv in the fact that you are able to go ahead and tell Moshe Rabbeinu, what God told you to bring the Jews to Israel, forget about it, it's not hakarat tov. According to the Goyen and according to the Madrish, these three nations were really given, Amoinu, Moav, Edom, Kini, Knizi, and Kanmoini, were given from the first promise from the covenant of Bein HaBetarim was given to Avraham Avinu. Only Chet HaMeraglim is taken away from him and given. Who is it given to? It's given to Amoinu Moav. What is Amoinu Moav? Amoinu Moav is the sons of Lloyd. Why is Lloyd getting it? Because he was quiet. He did not open up his mouth. Why is Edom, why is Esav getting the Knizi, the Edom? Because of Kibbud Av. You know what Kibbud Av is all about? If you look in Sefer HaChinuch, in Mitzvah Lamed Gimel, it says, why is a person obligated to honor and respect his parents to an extent that it's one of the greatest mitzvahs that the Torah says, Leman Yarichun Yamecha, a promise for extended life is go ahead, one of the mitzvahs, go ahead and respect your parents. Says the Sefer HaChinuch, beautiful word. Sheroyu le'odom sheyakir v'yigmol chesed l'mi she'osa imo toivo. V'lo'yeh novel u'misnaker v'kofu toivo. Shezu mida ro me'usa betachlis v'fnei l'kim v'anoshim. Do you know why you have to respect your father? You were a little baby. Somebody had to change your diaper. Somebody had to get up 3 o'clock a.m. to feed you. Somebody had to go through the entire growth, pains of growth, throughout your childhood, until you became old. So right now, when your father is old, it's time for you to pay back, to reciprocate, and to have some kind of token appreciation. That is the essence of Hakoras HaTov. Esav had that essence. So we have the Chet HaMeraglim, which encompasses 2 major averos. Number 1, opening up your mouth, divas ha'oretz, loshen hora, instead of being quiet. Who is getting that? Lloyd. Why is Lloyd getting that? For keeping quiet on the passport control, not opening his mouth. And on the other side, we have Esav, who is receiving the land of Edom, the Knizi, because of his beautiful, distinguished mitzvah of Kibbud Av, and which is, in essence, the epitome of Hakoras HaTov, of expressing a token of appreciation to the one you owe one. So since Chet HaMeraglim encompasses, according to Ramban, the inyan of being koifer b'teivosa shel mokim, the inyan of being to deny what so much due and deserve, this minimal courtesy to be bestowed upon God for making you all those favors, you are going right now rebelling in public. The one who is under the basket to recapture it is Esav. You know, those 3 nations are going to be given back to Klal Yisrael. If I look at Rashi in Parshas Bris Bein HaBetarim, Rashi says, "U'la'asad yavoyu l'bnei Yisrael shene'emar." Rashi brings a pasuk from Yeshaya, "Edom u'moyav mishloyach yodom uvnei amoin mishmatom." You know, when I see Rashi and quotes a pasuk in Nevi'im, I usually don't trust Rashi. I go ahead and look at the source. Oisias machkimis, never trust Rashi. Go ahead and look inside. And when I look inside, I look a few psukim before to get acquainted with the neighborhood. And this is what the neighborhood is saying. V'soro kinas Ephraim v'tzore Yehudo ikaresu. Ephraim lo yekanes Yehudo, v'Yehudo lo yotzer es Ephraim. Ve'ofu bekosef plishtis yomo yachdov yavozu b'nei kedem, Edom u'moyad mishlach yodum u'vnei amo mishmatom. The Navi so eloquently describes how we're going to get back those 3 lands in the future to come. So there are 2 Shvatim, even though it's going to go back to Klal Yisrael and to be dispersed equally amongst the 12 tribes, yet there are 2 of the Shvatim who are going to bring back those 3 Ammon, Moav, Edom back to Klal Yisrael. Who are they? Yehuda on one side and Ephraim on the other side. Why is Yehuda and Ephraim, why are these 2 tribes chosen to rejuvenate, to reconstitute this lost part of Eretz Yisrael, which was given as a short-term, not so short, a deposit to Ammon and Moav Edom? So let me tell you the secret. I'm telling you right now a secret. When the Madrish Chazal described the distinction between our 2 grandmothers, Baba Rachel and Baba Leah, they are saying something very unique. And they say, what is the main fundamental basic difference between Rachel and Leah? It says as follows: Leah tofso pele choido ve'omdu mimeno ba'ale choido. There is something called pelech choido. the segment of appreciation. Leah was the mother, the godmother of appreciation. Yehuda, the first one, he said, Apam Eides Hashem, because she constituted this segment of Eidah and perpetuated it, which is identified with a very personality, therefore, Omdu Mimeno Bale Eidah. If I look at this, descendants of Leah, they're all people who are thanking the old people of Eidah. Those are the people. Who are they? Yehuda, Vayakar Yehuda, Vayoyim Tzadka Mimeni. When Yehuda has a story with Tamar, he doesn't deny it. He said, Tzadka Mimeni. She is right. David, Hoidu LaHashem Kitoiv. David says, Hoidu LaHashem Kitoiv, and he is thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. David HaMelech, if you know, is the son of Yishai, the son of Ovid, the son of Boaz, the son of Salmon, with the son of Nachshon, the son of Aminadov, with the son of Chetzra and Ram, going up to Peretz, who was the son of Yehuda, 14 generations from Avraham Avinu. So David says, Hoidul Hashem Kitov. Daniel, who is part of Shevet Yehuda, Lecho Eloho Avosa Mehoido Meshabech. So the mother, the grandmother, unsere Baba Leah, she is Tafsa Pele Hoido, and therefore, in her gene throughout history, her children, great children, all of her descendants, are really, really identifying themselves with the segment of Eidah. Rachel, our mother Rachel, has a different qualifications. Tofso pelach shtiko. She took upon herself the segment of silence, of keeping quiet. The omdu kol baneo bale mastirin. She is the one who let Leah go instead of her. She kept quiet. She is the godmother of Shtika, of silent, and therefore all of her children, great children, the descendant, Abale Mastirin, which means close the mouth. Binyamin, Yoshpe. The stone of Benjamin and the Cheshvan of the Kohen God is called Yoshpe. Why? Yeshpe. Yoidea b'mechirosa shel Yosef ve'ina magid. He knew Yosef was sold, but he kept quiet because he was promised in on the secret, never ever told anybody. So he's Benjamin, Binyamin, the son of Rachel. He's Toifes, Pelach, Shtika. He takes his mother's very fundamental qualification to new highs. He's quiet. Shaul HaMelech, Yemini, he was also Mishevet Binyamin. It says, Ves Dvar Melucho lo higid. He never ever said the Dvar Melucho. Esther, who is also a descendant of Binyamin. Ein Esther Magedes es Amoy Ves Moladeto. So we have our two Babas. One Baba is the godmother of appreciation of Eidah, and the other one is the godmother of Pelach Shtike, of being distinguished silence, which carry them for many, many generations to come. Do you know why those two Shvatim, Yehuda and Ephraim, are chosen to be the one to conquer Ammon, Moav, and Edom, to bring it back to the package of 10? It's because those two Shvatim, Ephraim, who is the son of Shevet Yosef, who is the son of Rachel, and Yehuda, who is the fourth son of Leah, both of them, with this beautiful harmony combination of Shtike and Hoidah, they bring it back. You know why? Because the Meraglim seen in those two Chatoim, those two evil elements, they opened the mouth. They were not they were lacking the fundamental yesod of shtika, be quiet. For that, you need to bring back, to close the cycle, you need to bring back through somebody who is very distinguished in the Midas Hashtika. And on the other side, Yehuda, who is joint venturing with his brother Ephraim, who has the tchuna, this element of Eidah, they bring it back. You know why? Because the chait of the Meraglim, the second chait, was kofar b'tevasa shel mokim. You should have had a koras hatoiv. So now to bring it back, go ahead and take those two shvatim who are fortified in these two elements to bring back whatever was lost because of lack of shtika and the lack of Eidah, given to the two cousins of Lloyd and Esav. And the two cousins, Lloyd and Esav, who are distinguished in this milas of being quiet when silence is called for, and Kibud Av, which is the epitome of Haidah, now that it's returned to Klal Yisrael because it was given the time deposit, a limited time deposit, now the one who's chosen to take the chestnuts out of the fire to bring it back is the one who is Shtike and Haidah, those two Shvatim. You know what the difference between Yeshua and Kalev? Very simple. Kalev ben Yefuneh, if you look, represents Shevet Yehuda. Yoshua bin Nun is Lamata Ephraim, Lamata Yosef. Yehuda, Kalev, Vayas, Kalev, when he goes ahead and goes with a head-on collision against the Meraglim, it's not enough for him to be quiet, to sit there, to rip his clothes on earth like his brother, like his cousin Yosef, Yeshua bin Nun. Yeshua bin Nun is the son, is the Einakul of Ephraim. Ephraim, the Midah of Rachel is a Midah of Yosef, is the Midah of Shtika. He sits there, he says nothing. He sits on the floor, he sits on earth, and he takes upon himself just the Gzeir as his, as keeping quiet. Yehuda, Kalev ben Yefuneh, who has to fortify and to emphasize the Midas Haidah, Vayas, Kalev v'chizeh bilvad osel l'Moshe, hoyred esamon, hegez esaslov, and koralon esayom. So we see how beautiful everything falls into place, and how nothing is coincidental. Things are there, and nothing is coincidental. You know, we're here tonight to